Okay, Tom, this is the Hertz Let's Go lightning round. You
Shall we
ready?
for
You got your
the room, or-
electrolyte?
I'm ready, Yvonne.
Okay, well, then let's go.
Just sitting back
Round
there?
one. What
By,
exciting benefits
Bachman.
do you get as a Hertz
He
Gold
was.
Plus Rewards member?
Oh, that's
So
easy. You get to skip
we're
the line and go right
this
to your car.
page.
Okay, what else?
And pick
We're
any
writing
car you
down
want from
all the
Hertz's
great
wide
things that have
selection of great
happened to you.
vehicles.
Tom,
in
you're
the
on a
last
20-year
10
line.
years.
Keep going, Will.
Earn points toward
And share it with somebody. So pick somebody in the room, either someone next to you or close to you, and just go back and forth, spend about 30 seconds each, and just pick a few of the highlights and share with somebody. Some of the positive things in the last decade. All right, if you haven't switched, make sure you're switching. Let the other person share. Get a few things? Right? What was your name? Erica Boyd. Good to see you. Glad you're here. All right, let's bring it back to the room here. So for any of you guys who are interested in teaching classes, if you want to know a trick to get the energy up, just let people talk amongst themselves a little bit. So it works out great. So anyway, who wants to share? Share something either that came up for you that was awesome in the last decade, or something that you heard from one of your neighbors. This is the interactive part of the program. Personal, business, could be your health. Anything's possible, right? You finished a book that you wrote? Oh, okay. I was gonna say. Moby freaking Dick, huh? Okay, so you wrote a book, and think about, so how long had that been a concept or something that you wanted to do? Okay. And then you just had to start, and it probably seemed overwhelming at a lot of point, but now you're on the other side of that, knowing that you completed it. Congratulations. That's pretty big. Anyone else write a book in the last decade? So that's possible. Christopher, you did? All right, super. Okay, what else? So I'll pick on a few people and tell your own story if you don't want to share, but Austin, what about you? What came to mind as far as the last 10 years?
Sometimes it feels like you're alone, and you can't take the weight of the world all on your own. But don't forget,
Wow, congratulations. Awesome.
you'll always find a way back to your.
What about, let's see, Mike, you weren't even in real estate a decade ago. Was it even a concept in your mind to be in real estate? So you want to share anything exciting? So for everybody, the answer is no.
Keep holding on. Dreams are coming soon. I'll be there with you. It won't be long. You'll be in my arms. I'll be
Then as you start progressing, I mean, your world opens up. So just the concept of getting into real estate or shifting career paths. So you had a very successful career in retail. I mean, that was kind of your path. But to a point where, I mean, Mike, as most of you guys know, was involved in, as the head operations person for the Stern team, and then in production, a lot of things. So not only did he get into real estate, but also participate at a very high level in a very short, it seemed short for us that didn't have to put the work in. I'm sure it didn't seem very short for you, but in a couple-year period from learning what is a Repsy to being really an integral part of one of the largest teams in the state. Pretty big shift happened inside the decade. Very proud. Anyone else got something in the last decade that either they heard or that they want to talk about? Liz? Well, that's pretty cool. Right? Super. So what's your guys' excuse if your business went down last year? So all of these things also help build our confidence. Like we're trying to build our confidence, and it gives you more that you can think bigger moving forward, the more confidence. And so this is something that now Liz has in her past, confidence, especially around health and wellness, that she's already done that. So you know, anything she should be able to accomplish moving forward. Mike.
You'll be safe in bed. I'll hold you tight.
Yeah.
You'll be loved tonight.
Yeah. Congratulations, and it's lucky to have that message early in your life, in your 20s. A lot of us, it takes a little time to get to a pain point to have to really focus on that. So, great. Justin?
Can hide. Give it up for yours. Please let's go from the start. First we were flying, Living our days in the night. Loved you in the only way I loved you in the
Yeah.
ways I
And it took some discipline, and you probably had days that it was mental toughness, a real challenge to get up every day because you wanted to do that. But if you have some emotion towards those goals, I really wanted to be able to have my kids go to whatever college they wanted to and not worry about how they're going to pay for it. And that was one of those things, kind of like the Cadillac. Once I was old enough to have a Cadillac, I also was old enough to have kids graduating from college. So I get these goosebumps to think about, man, I remember writing down, maybe even when we just had our first kid, we're worried about diapers, that I would really like to be able to not have it be a financial strain on our household to get them through college. And in the last year and a half, I've had two tuitions that I've had the opportunity to pay, and it was not, we didn't really have to skimp on that because luckily we had the 529 plan of something that was pretty consistent that was important to me. It would pull me forward on the days I didn't want to call that client back or do that lead follow-up call. Any other quick ones? Justin, one of the things I think you and I have shared, and I think similar just on your path of building your portfolio, I mean, it's like you just buy one and then you've got it, you never really feel like you've got enough real estate, at least I don't, but it gets easier. I mean, the amount of energy it took me to buy my first duplex, I just think it was so overwhelming. I thought it was going to wipe me out. I mean, just coming up with a down payment and getting the nerves and getting approved for a loan was such a big deal. And now I'm just so accustomed to it. I transact, and if I'm not doing some sort of real estate transaction in about 30 or 60 days, I get a little weird. Just been part of my routine, because we build those muscles. And Justin, I was just going to point out, you talked about leaving at 4 o'clock to do the kids. You also do a lot more vacation time. We talked about the trip to Lake Mead, which is a great benefit for you and your family. But because you're still wired to work, it makes you a little funny taking that time off. But it's a pretty cool lifestyle if you can go spend, is it 10 days you guys do in Lake Powell? 7 to 10 days. It's pretty good. Your staff loves it. Okay, great. Okay, so now that with that as a perspective, we've all kind of started thinking about making a little bit better, our past a little better. Think about what's possible for you. And again, don't undersell yourself. If it's possible for Mike, and it's possible for Pooch, it's possible for your neighbors, it's possible for other people you've seen in your life, what's possible for you? So let's take a few minutes and really focus on, pick whichever box, start, and let's go through all of them. Business, I think primarily focus on your real estate business. What's possible for you? Maybe someone in here wants to build the biggest team in the state. Maybe someone wants to be the highest individual producing agent. Maybe somebody in here wants to own this business someday, or something like it. What's possible for your health? Heard some good examples of that. Maybe you want to be in the kind of physical shape that Nate is in at age 60. Want to look like Nate does at age 32? That'd be pretty good. What about your personal wealth? This is more of how much you're worth, what kind of passive income you have coming in, what sort of investments do you have. In relationships, I would say that those two bottom ones, health and relationships, until we get those right, it's really hard to have the kind of success we really want. What goals do you have in your relationships? Beautiful bride and I just celebrated 25 years. This has been our whole year we've been celebrating that, and it has not always been easy. I think it's probably in a really great spot right now, but there's, it feels much better doing the health stuff, the relationship stuff, the business, when you get those things right in your own life.
Why don't you give me a reason? You need a place where you can breathe out. You're second guessing why you leave me.
A relationship you want with your
We
kids.
can make it right. And you've been calling me late at night. Do you want it? I can see it. Where it's gone and what's it?
Prospecting, closing a deal.
It's hard to believe it.
Let's get lost in each other and pretend that we don't care at all.
Universe and stars collide in the hallway while I was sinking like a stone. And now I find you in all the small things.
We're in real estate. Maybe you have an idea of what your dream home is. There was a $61 million house in Deer Valley that went under contract this weekend. 61 million. You can look it up. It's been in the Wall Street Journal, a lot of things. Pretty incredible. I don't think maybe it'll help you think about. I love real estate, and those of you in real estate, you've probably shown a home or seen a home or something that inspired you. Be like, hey, that might be pretty good for me. Rick will probably take the 61 million, but there's a lot of other houses you guys could have. A lot. Maybe you want to be the kind of real estate agent that will do a $61 million deal. That can't be terrible. Competing offers, the top 10 offers were all cash. They harvested, they made a huge national open house. They did unbelievable marketing, got all these big dogs in town and had them compete over it, and had multiple cash buyers in place to spend $61 million on a piece of real estate. Are we thinking big enough? Huh? Yeah, just something to have. Nice for the kids.
What a god awful man. What a god awful man.
They're listening. There's a whole backstory. I forget who it was. Somebody built this as their dream home and then got bored with it before it was done. So it's been under construction for like 6 years. It's been sort of a very known commodity in the Park City market for a long time. What's that? No, that's the crazy thing is Brian Smith sold a house recently and he's a billionaire and his was small in comparison to this one. It has a moving, forget what it's called, but anyway, it moves you to the ski lodge. You just put your skis on. Yes, a private gondola where you just put your skis on and you're inside the house and it takes you to the cold weather onto the slopes. Which, maybe. I lived in the same house for about 16 years. We thought we really liked it, and we did, but there were some things we wanted in the next house. And when we finally moved, it was unbelievable. It just was such a positive feeling. So we didn't realize how much we were ready for that. Kind of got our own sanctuary. It was a whole good feeling, got us excited. And it scared the crap out of me. It was, at the time, seemed like a reach. Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of other houses for $65 million that sold this weekend. So I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's verified, but Jake Wood, who comes in this office sometimes, there is at least a potential that his brother either was the agent or one of the agents that presented about this. So that would be terrible. That might get you through the first quarter commission. I hope he had his BAC signed. It'd be terrible if he didn't get paid on that. All right, keep the pen moving. We'll go about another 30 seconds, get some ideas down. And this is not the end of the time ever in your life. You can always come back and add some things, but let's get some. What was that the commission was? 2 Realtors are worth every penny of that.
I don't sleep much anymore. We don't talk like we did before. On the porch late at night, as the moon sheds its light, and I'm feeling so tired. Yeah.
Take another couple minutes, jot a few things down just so you know what's in your mind.
We don't feel like we used to feel. Had a dream, but that dream was never real.
Isn't it kind of weird how little time we actually spend doing stuff like this? It's all in our head, we're thinking about it, but just to take the time to just want to write it down feels good.
What do we have?
All right, so now we're going to do what we did before. Take a couple minutes, maybe grab someone different than who you shared with last time, either behind you or close to you, and just share some of the top 2 or 3 things that you came up with that resonated with you.
We're all growing old too soon. We're all growing old too soon. We're all growing old too soon. We're all growing old far too soon. Too soon. Already done so many things. Set our vows, exchanged those rings. Saw the world and settled in. Got good jobs, raised our kids. But is it too late to start again? And it feels just like a moment ago. We were both sitting here, planning out our lives. So we're all growing old too soon. We're all growing old too soon. We're all growing old too soon. We're all growing old far too soon. Too soon. Don't know if I have anything left to give, anything left to give. I don't know if I have anything left to give.
All right, let's wrap it up. Bring it back to the room. All right, wrap it up, wrap it up. Wow. All right, let's bring it back to the room, guys. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Shish, shish. Wow. That's exciting. Another tip, if you want to teach a class, let people talk about what they're excited about, what's possible for them. So what a lot of energy in the room, and it's great to have you guys feel good about sharing those things. And I'd really encourage you to keep writing about that, get some leverage on yourself, pick the 2 or 3 things that are most important to you. Again, for me, when I was early going to Tony Robbins and different things I was planning, the thing that resonated the most with me wasn't the amount of houses I was going to sell, it wasn't even the income I was going to make. I always just wanted to own real estate. So I picked a number that seemed overwhelming to me. I wanted to own this much real estate. And my first goal was to own $10 million in real estate. At that point, I think I owned about $200,000 worth of real estate. The house that I lived in Conwood Heights, maybe it was $150,000. So to write down on paper that I was going to someday own $10 million, it wasn't impacted by what was realistic because I was thinking long term. I thought that would be a nice lifetime goal to achieve. So for 5 years, I ran around with an index card in my pocket that said I own $10 million or more in real estate. And it got juice for me, something I was excited about. It was more exciting to me than number of transactions or DCI or any of those things. Now, I did have goals like that for short term that we looked at, but that was something that would pull me through the days. I said, well, it doesn't matter that this listing canceled. It doesn't matter that this person told me no. I'm going to be the kind of guy that can own $10 million in real estate. You know what happened is it just snuck up on us. I was on my way. Again, it's a progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. That was a worthwhile goal for me, and I was just progressing on the path. One day I looked up and I was writing all the stuff down. I think, we're at $10 million. But when I wrote that down, I could no more own $10 million at that point than go pay cash for the $61 million home in Deer Valley. So make sure there's something that really can get some juice for you, whatever it might be. One of our current goals is we want to spend a month in Cape Cod every summer and a month in Maui in the winter. And when I started thinking about that about 8 years ago, it seemed a little unreasonable that I could run my business and do that. And now with COVID and some of this group I'm associated with in Strategic Coach, I think everybody's in their 50s or 60s. It might be one of the requirements to get in there. But I've met so many couples that are doing that. They're running a business and they're living in 2 different places. And so my mind, I've kind of been out there. It's helping me ferment that a little bit. And it feels more and more possible for us now to have that. And the really neat thing, we just got back from what's called Couples Connection. I was in Naples, Florida with my wife this weekend. And the power of being able to share your goals with a significant other or somebody, even going over it with your children sometimes is so much fuel. And for years I would have these plans, my business plans, and wouldn't necessarily get Kim as engaged in it early in the career because I'm like, she's like, this is crazy talk. She's not going to really believe I can do any of this stuff. But over the last few years, we've really gotten engaged in talking about that and thinking about what our bigger future is, what's possible for us together. And it's even neat to get the kids involved now that my kids are in their 20s, to have them talk about it and say, hey, would this be something that's interesting? Wouldn't it be great if we could do this? And to have really the people that you care about or get involved, it really gives a lot of sort of like putting gasoline on the fire a little bit. So I would challenge you when you're done with your plan today, really think about that. Spend some time this weekend, call a meeting with a significant other partner. And if you're not married or you don't have that significant other, would you have this conversation with a parent, a child, maybe one of your best friends growing up? Call them and just say, I really want to share some of this stuff with somebody. Can you give me a little bit of leverage on it? And I think you'll find some real power in it. Who has one or a few things that they want to share that can really get excited about over the next decade? Oh man, we failed. Nothing, huh? Marita. It's FM, freaking magic. Once you start thinking about it, if your mind can conceive it, then all of a sudden there'll be evidence that'll show up that'll start building that confidence. Wow, that's exciting. And this is a great example. Like, honestly, in a million years, I wouldn't wake up and think that I wanted a mineral museum. But that you have something personal that means a lot to both of you guys that you can really pursue. And that seems like a worthwhile goal. It seems like something will take a little energy to put it together. Thanks for sharing. Hey, anyone else? Just Rick and Marita are gonna crush it the next decade. Yeah, thank you, Bobby. Guys, welcome Bobby, by the way. Three days, KW.
To be so close to you, but I guess I'll go think about it most of the day. I wonder if my luck will ever change, and I can hold you in my arms.
So you've got the vision of what that could look like, and I love that you're not necessarily having to operate the business, but you could help, and part of what you're doing is help maybe get someone started to be in there. Great. That sounds cool. So I think I shared a week ago. Oh, did you have one?
I can't control this feeling I might lose, and it's not something that I'm trying to prove when I tell you that I'm missing you.
Yeah, that is neat when you can really have it, or if you drive through neighborhoods, it's like, hey, this is where I want to be, to really visualize that. I love spending money going places where wealthy people are because it inspires me. I remember having a moment at the Grand Hyatt, Manchester Grand Hyatt. It's in the San Diego harbor. I went there for a Mike Ferry event. The first year I went, I couldn't afford it, so I stayed at a place about 3 blocks away that was like $89. Because it was $200, not under a bridge, but it was like, Tom Bodette left the light on for me. but the experience wasn't that great. You know, I would walk there and I was still in these 2 beautiful towers overlooking the San Diego harbor, and I'm just sitting there looking like, oh wait, there's millions and millions of dollars of boats and no one's even on the boat. And I'm like, well, how exciting is that? That you can just have a boat sitting in the San Diego harbor for whatever you want. And so then the following year, I'm like, all right, it's a sacrifice, but we'll stay in that dang hotel. It's just a beautiful experience. One of the things for me, because I love building and real estate, is next to the coffee shop there, they have a picture of the dude that built it and his family at the ground floor. And I'm like, I have a duplex at Sandy on State Street. And this guy has 2 beautiful towers. I mean, you know, there's always something bigger to get you inspired to think about. So just being around that stuff helped elevate me. That's been a really experience for me through golf. I am a member of a country club, and one of the things I love the most about that is I meet people in all different parts of life. They've made their money in different ways, and it's just inspiring for me to hear the different stories of how they've gotten successful. Most of them are entrepreneurs. There's just a lot of ways to do it. I've heard some inspiring stories of trips they take or things they own or businesses that they built. That's a good way, just being around people and in those conversations. So great visualization. There's a ton of resources on this, guys. It's such a blessing with podcasts and YouTube and everything, but Earl Nightingale is one of them. He's really old school. There's Napoleon Hill, Brian Tracy. I mean, if you just get out there on the web and look for some things on visualization, and there's some stuff, some new age stuff that can get way out there as far as meditating on it and visualizing it. I'm a proponent of that stuff, but really try to find something that can fire your enthusiasm for this. Who's got another one or two we can share with the room? Get a little juice on yourself. Christopher.
They speak too loud. Why would you carry me? Why don't you go now? I wish I could go back now. Running speed of sound, careless of what the future holds. It always ends just like this. Why is the fall so?
So what would that look like? Like, you have pretty young children right now, right? Handful. Okay. And so you're thinking like South America, Africa, Linden, Utah. What are you thinking?
The stars will fade. The light is gone. The color's not the same. Cleaning up, always the same. Another season is coming to an end, and all the things that could be mine, you're drowning your reverie.
What a valuable sort of role to have, especially we're in housing. I think that the housing crisis and the homeless situation is something we all should be somewhat aware of and be a part of the solution. But I think with Chris talking about that, again, he's got young children, but that'll start forming some of the decisions and activities he has with his kids and even some of the conversations. So maybe they'll have an opportunity to go do something over Thanksgiving that they will have, maybe not even a full understanding, but just know, hey, our family, we do things for the community. Well, we're going to start doing this thing, and then we can start building on that a little more as possible. What a great way to think about bringing those kids up with lessons. So, that's a great example. Any other? It's hard to follow that one if we talk about buying a big boat or something. But, go ahead.
Remember who you are. Don't cry. I can remember how it feels at all. Remember who you are. Go back now, running at speed of sound, careless of what the future holds. It always ends just like this. Why is it fall so high? The feelings above the clouds, collecting the pieces caused by all my past mistakes. Can't remember why.
Your favorite TV shows are on YouTube. Enjoy the latest releases. Get Max, Stars, MGM Plus, and more. Find your favorite movies and TV on YouTube.
Great story. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I think some of that, just the reminder is that we don't need money to be generous, but it helps. I mean, if we're living an abundant life and we're being successful and we have the means to be able to do something like that, to take some time out and foster a child, or take a humanitarian trip or do some of these things, it makes it a lot easier. So as you can tie some of these things that you would like to do, the feelings associated with that sense of accomplishment with your business plan and the discipline, I mean, really is sort of the table we're trying to set for today. So congratulations. And I'm getting close to wrapping up here. I just will encourage you on this next sheet, this is your best decade ever. Most of the work has already been done, but I want you to just commit to write down for the next 10 years, what is that for you? Age 21 to 31 for Nate, allegedly. This would be a great opportunity for me to give Broker, Dave, and Lee a little jab for being the elder statesman in the group, but one extra zero perhaps. And what the years are, and then I would just ask you, this is on creativity and productivity, that's probably on the business and wealth side, and the fitness and health, that probably would be more on your relationship. Just pick 2 or 3 that are the most important to you that we just did on that exercise, and if you'll write them down, and then I'll really encourage you, your homework from here is to go out and help answer this question, why? And again, I want to keep us on track for what we have today, but while it's fresh in your mind, pick the top 2 or 3 in each of those sections, and then maybe spend the weekend with that why. And again, if you have the courage to have that meeting with your significant other, your kid, your mom, your dad, your neighbor, your scoutmaster, whoever you want to share that with, maybe the why would be a really cool conversation. Why do you want to do that? Shared the story about a week ago about a friend of mine, the young Josh Stern, sitting in my office telling me he was going to build a 7th level business and then take a year off, just ride around in his hippie van and do all the things he wanted to do. Seemed crazy, but he did it. Weirdo. Also remember at the time we had nobody in the industry really doing 100 transactions, and him and Aaron Marshall, who rest in peace, he was a beauty, but those two both arguing over who was going to be the first one to sell 500 homes in the state of Utah. It seemed unreasonable. I thought, well, that's an interesting conversation. But they both sat out to make it reality. It was progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. And fun to have a front seat to that. And honestly, if Josh can do it, any of you guys can do it. I appreciate him showing up to really drive home the confidence for us all. Sure. So in the next 10 years, your name would be your name up there, the date, but Puchar, for you, between, what are you, early 40s, 24 to 34, whatever, okay. So the top 3 things in your business, like maybe you wrote down a goal for something that you want to do in your business or in wealth, and I would just pick the top 2 or 3 and just get those written down. And this side would be out of that box that we filled in related to health and relationships. So that would be more your fitness and health, or if you have a certain fitness goal that you know you want to be, if you have, you know, in the next decade, I want to become this much body fat, or I want to compete in the Ironman or something like that. Be able to walk around the block. Have some fitness goals. Man, the stuff they're doing with fitness and longevity and wellness, it's really neat how much focus is on that. And it's amazing to me, and maybe this is just a part of getting older, but how many people I'm seeing in their 60s, 70s, and 80s really having a high quality of life. If you guys haven't read, there's a book, Peter Attia, I believe, Dr. Peter Attia, called Outlive. Wonderful book. It's thick, it's heavy, but it's real common sense of how to have just a better quality of life for a longer amount of time. Not real difficult, but I would highly recommend that one. I believe it's Outlive. It's Dr. Peter Attia, and he's on the pod circuit and very easy to find if you want to find him. What's that? Am I right on? It's Attia, am I saying that right? Anyone that's Dr. Peter Attia, I think he's based out of Austin, Texas. Outlive, yep, that's a wonderful book. And if you're gonna make a pile of money, you might as well have enough shape to be able to go walk up the ski slope or do whatever it is that fires you up, so. Okay, so your homework is to work on the whys. Any quick ahas? I do want to keep us moving, and I don't want to take any more of Linda's time. Any ahas from that experience this morning? It's a positive experience. Okay, Mark, you asked for it. You got it. Nate?
Mike said this the other day when we were doing vision boards, but it's just nice to take some time to slow down. I don't think we do it enough. Like, it shouldn't be this hard for me to envision my next day, which tells me that I'm not taking time.
Yeah. And it's like a muscle. Once you start doing it and having conversations, you'll see how energizing it is. So hopefully you'll find some peers in here somewhere that you can say, hey, what's new? What are you thinking? You know, what's possible for you? So congratulations. Any other? We'll take one other aha. How about those of you who are sort of new in real estate, or this is sort of a new process for you? Any? Yes. And how was this experience? Is it a little overwhelming to think about all this stuff? The real estate, or this last hour particularly? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and it can be, and I think finding some peers, and it's always good to see other people have success. This young lady next to you, it was fun seeing her. She really had a breakthrough year. She's a little streaky, like when she puts her mind to it, she gets a bunch of business going. But it's just fun to see the confidence start to grow when we get a deal. Telly and I were talking about it. He got his, I think, your first listing this week. And it's like you put all the work in, and then it's like, okay, the universe is giving you a signal back of affirmations, and that's one of the hardest parts to get through at the beginning. So hang in there, have some unrealistic goals of what's possible in 10 years, and then Mike and Linda will help you make sure we have a good plan. Because remember the famous philosopher, my dad? I don't know if you were in here, what would he say? Don't just sit there, go do something. And early in real estate, you have to think about what is that something? Like not just moving bales of hay, but there's got to be some activities I've got to get going on my path. So thank you for sharing, and hopefully this group can help you through that. So the other part of my presentation that we're not going to talk about now because you have a lot is just buy some damn real estate, guys. I was at an event with the Andrew Chun, he's the National Association of Realtors chief economist, and I got to have him listen to him speak about 2 weeks ago in Miami, and I'll share some slides in the coming weeks with you guys. But one of the things that it shocked me to death is that he talked about how many real estate professionals there's like 5 million real estate professionals in the United States or more. He talked about how many of them actually own real estate other than their primary residence. And it blew me away. And it just reminded me that we've got to get better at that. We're in the business. We're insider trading. You see it all the time. The fastest way, well, maybe not the fastest way, a great way to build wealth is by owning real estate, and plug into some of Justin's classes on wealth building, but it's going to be a real priority for us. I'm committed to you guys in our office to continue the conversations. We really have had a number of people we've just from being in the conversation have become millionaires just through owning real estate, and that should be part of your plan. So just 3 quick numbers that I'll go through on this, and then I'll give the mic up on real estate. So first of all, if you're like Justin, owned a bunch of real estate, in the last 4 years, the portfolio you have has increased 57, almost 58%, third highest in the nation. And as hard as I try to think about reasons why real estate won't go up in value in the next 10 years in Utah, I can't come up with any evidence. There's just no way it's going to be cheaper to buy real estate in 10 years than it is today. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. And then let's see if this works, Becky. All right. So what was the average home price in 2004 in Salt Lake? 200,000. I'm rounding a little bit, but not puffing. So if you bought an average house and put 20% down, you had debt of 160, equity of 40. 2014, what do you think it was worth? Remember, we had the biggest real estate crash in the history of the free world in 2008 and 2009, so it probably went down. So 275, even enduring the biggest real estate crash ever, your investment over that 10-year period still went up significantly. 2024, obviously we've been, now this isn't always linear, it doesn't get the 57% appreciation over 3 years always, but in the next 10 years you will. So now that average home that somebody was smart enough to buy in 2004, probably the house, Josh, your house on not too far from here, was that about 2004 that you bought that? And these numbers probably aren't that much. Yeah, well, because a famous person lived in it. So, but this is just, it's a time, guys. And if you can have the perspective of 20 years, a little bit for your plan, or 10 years, put this into your plan that today, that write down to buy some damn real estate. Because every year you do that, the net result of that for 20 years is that you basically, there's $23,500 of just appreciation. This doesn't count your cash flow, none of the tax advantages. Every single year for the last 10 years, Josh got paid $23,500 for owning that house. That's $2,000 a month in addition to showing up and doing his work. So if we just did one of those average houses, so don't get caught up in making the best investment in the history of the world, it just has to be average and hold it. You're adding $2,000 a month appreciation. So if you have a career as long as Lee Stern, you'd probably have like 40 of those houses. What's she, 40 years in real estate, something like that? 50 years in real estate. Gosh, all right, great. So that's true. Okay, thanks guys. Linda, do you want to take a quick break or do you want to go right into yours?
Let's take like 5 minutes.
5-minute bio break and then Linda's up next. Thank you guys. Good work. What's that? I'll come back and do that. I want, it deserves more time than I have for it today, but I want to tease you a little bit on it. Okay. Is yours guys on? Oh yeah, it's on the same. Great.
Anyways, I'm going to pick your brain on that because that's one thing I walked away from. Like, holy shit, my website.
That's my favorite number class because I'm not but I love this like this is the stuff.
Yeah, the website is the one piece that I'm like, I can improve on a lot of stuff, but that was the one. Right?
Okay, you guys ready to get back into it?
Testing. Yo.
Let's do it. Great work. Can I have your attention, please? 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, so we're going to switch packets now. So you should have this packet in front of you. If you don't have one, please raise your hand and we'll get you one. Anybody else? You run that to Jamie, please.
Yep.
Okay, so one of my favorite things about this company, and this company has absolutely changed my life. Boyd was talking about 13 years ago, and that's true. The first 3 years I didn't really do much, but since then, like I got the privilege of sitting in on Boyd teaching wealth building and Lee and Josh and watching what Josh did with the Stern team and really just being engaged in the systems and the models and the culture here at Keller Williams. And so the very first page is kind of a reminder of why we're here and what we believe in collectively as a group. So I'd love for you all to, on the left side of your page there, say it with me. These are our cultural beliefs. This is our value-based belief system here at Keller Williams. And we'll start with win-win, no deal, integrity, do the right thing, customers always come first, commitment in all things, communication, seek first to understand, creativity, ideas before results, teamwork, together everyone achieves more, trust starts with honesty, equity, opportunities for all, and success results through people. What's coming up for you guys when you read through that list? Equity, what does that mean to you, Josh?
Well, the equal opportunities for all, that means we all have an equal chance. It does not mean that we're bestowed a right.
Correct.
It just means that we all have an equal chance. And Keller Williams has been dynamite at helping people like me, to achieve, a 7-level business.
Yeah.
Right? Now, everybody else has had an equal chance to do that through Keller Williams.
Yeah.
But not everybody has executed on that opportunity.
Right.
So to me, I think it's really important that we recognize that we have a choice in taking advantage of the opportunity that's given to us.
Right. It's beautifully said. And you're a perfect example, right? Like you all have the equal opportunity to go and build something just as big, if not bigger, than what Josh built. And the first step to that is being here in this room and putting together a plan. So congratulate yourselves for taking that first step. What else is coming up in reading through that list of values? Nate.
I think success results through people because probably 2 years ago, that to me would have been more of a leverage statement. And I think in the last 2 years, moving to this office, being around like-minded people, people that want to win, it's not always the leverage or like, what can that person do for me to take off my plate? It's just kind of the opportunities that open up when you are around people having conversations that just organically happen because you're in the room.
Right. Has anyone ever heard you are the average of the 6 people you spend the most time with? Choose your people carefully. One more.
I think it kind of ties into what you said about teamwork, like the teamwork section there, like where I came from a place where it was, we both actually worked the same brokerage, and it was a place where it was like, fend for yourself, it was like the broker was top priority, if you did well, great, but if you did too good, not good, we'll push you down. And one thing that I really loved here is like, everyone's been so supportive, and like when you do well, they're like,
I love that. If you are not with Keller Williams, or if you're here and this is new to you, know that this is one of the biggest pieces of our company that differentiates us from a lot of other companies. The right side of your page there are the 6 personal perspectives. This is a commitment to being just a better person all the way around, right? And the first piece of that would be commit to self-mastery. And one of those things would be committing to a plan to achieve your goals, which is why we're here. So we're going to dive into the business planning aspect. The next page in your packet goes over our mission, vision, values statement. And those are really cool. If you haven't seen them, read through them. I think a lot of this, specifically the mission, really resonates with business planning. So we are here to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving. How does that feel for all of you? Feels pretty good, right? It's a good industry to be in where you're in charge of that and you get to decide what that looks like.
Can I just add something?
Yeah,
on
Mike.
that MVVP is that's Keller Williams. What is it for you? What's your mission? Do you have a set vision and values? What's your beliefs? What's your perspective?
Who here has a written mission statement? Couple of you? Yeah. Might be something to consider as you're moving into business planning is, does your plan really resonate with you if you don't know why you're doing it? What's your mission? And that's a lot of what Boyd spent the last hour talking with you guys about is, what are the things that kind of light that fire and make all of this worth committing to? Mike, anything else?
No, I mean, I think with what Boyd talked about earlier this morning, I mean, that is the building blocks for what we're going to be talking about later on today. And I think I wouldn't worry so much about having it perfect today, but rather, like, what do you take in? What do you internalize so that you can go over the next, whether it's a couple of days, maybe a week or two, but put a deadline of when you want to try to wrap all this together. Because without a deadline, it has a tendency to just get forgotten.
Right. And the other important piece of this is when we leave here today, you should have at least a fairly robust outline of your business plan. And like Mike said, put a deadline on that to finish it and then put it somewhere where you see it. Save it as your screensaver, save it on your computer, print a copy and leave it on your desk. Like, put it somewhere where you are going to see it all the time. Because it's a good reminder while you're here in this room today and committing your time to come up with a plan, if you're not revisiting that plan often, what are the odds that you're going to execute on it? Yeah. Okay, so the next page in your packet are the 7 circles. These are the 7 kind of main facets of your life that we've identified in Keller Williams. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little exercise. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to go through, and you're going to, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, no, I'm going to have to look again. I can never remember if 10 is good or if 10 is not good.
10's good.
Okay, 10 would be like, I'm nailing it. Like, this aspect of my life, I am completely content. I don't have anything that I need to focus on. It is awesome. And then you're going to have probably some sections of your life where you're looking at 1, 2, 3, like, hey, I really could use some work and some focus. And this is just an exercise to really give you an idea of, in that wheel, if you had a whole pie, right, if everything was a 10, you'd be a pretty stoked person, right? Your life is pretty well balanced and rounded. But this is an exercise for you to identify gaps. Identify potential places in your life where you really feel like you want to focus your energy and your time and make that better so that your wheel is a little bit more round. I'll give you about 5 minutes to fill that out. Yeah, so do you see on that wheel, there's 10 sections. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there's 10 like bars in there. So just plant in each piece of the pie where you feel like you're at. Each section is a number. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Is there something for your physical health that's just nagging at you? Is there something spiritually that you're missing? What about money, finances, wealth? What about your key relationships? What about those people? And maybe it's not even necessarily just your immediate family, but the key people in your life that you really feel are important and influential. How are those relationships? What about your personal life? Do you have one? What about your job? If you were your boss, would you still have a job? What about for your business? Are you running a business? What does your business look like you want it to?
Give us to use the definition, what's the difference between job and business?
So your job, right, is what you do on a very daily basis. They're the tasks and the things that you are doing as part of your job. Your business is more of the higher level thinking. Are you running a business on a P&L? Do you know what your financial situation is? Do you know what the goals are? Do you know what the metrics are to hit those goals? It's just a bigger picture thinking rather than showing homes, having buyer consultations, having listing consultations. Yeah.
I just want to make sure, because for me, I feel like I'm good at my job, but I'm not really great at my business.
And that might be the case for a lot of us, yeah? Mike, you got anything to add here?
You know, I mean, there's 7 circles. You guys may have more.
Yeah.
You guys, some of us may have fewer, right? I think it's just about being aware of what are the areas that you're aware of and that you want to go improve on.
And be really honest with this. Like, if there's one on there that you're like, look, I don't really care about that one, that's okay.
Yeah.
Cross it out and put something in there that you really do care about. Josh.
Some people confuse job and business.
Yeah.
And so one of the things to look at when you consider business is anything you do in your business is going to make your job easier.
Yes.
Right?
Systems, models, watching your finances, running a P&L, goal-setting workshop. Exactly.
What would you guys say is the difference between personal life and key relationships?
Key relationships could be your relationship with women, but that might be a lot different. You could have crossover, but it might be a lot different than the people that you hang out with
Yeah.
when you're at home.
Wait, what is personal life?
Well, so this is kind of the joke that I just made, like tongue-in-cheek style, like, do you have one? I mean, you might be so focused on some of these other areas in your life that there's not really much there right now. And this is not, the idea is not like make sure that you're a 10 in every facet at every time, but the awareness of where you could focus your energy if you want to. Josh.
Well, I remember, when the book came out, this PDF is on page 149. spiritual life, right?
Yeah.
And I honestly had zero spiritual life, zero. It was just like, you know, you say you can disclude the, so it wasn't until I took a year-long road trip in my hippie bus that, you know, and it took like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months to really go, oh, this is my spiritual life.
Right.
Right? And so, and there was nothing wrong with that. There was nothing broken with me when I was focused on other things. And that's something you have to realize is you don't have to have all of these things.
Right.
You know, those things that are important to you now are what you want to focus on.
Exactly. And so if you are going through this exercise and you're identifying things that you really care about that are not checking out well on that piece of pie, it's probably a good idea to put some focus there this year, right? And if there's stuff on there that you're like, I could care less about that right now in this season of my life, that's okay too. This is not a right or wrong, good or bad. It's an awareness assessment. Where are you at holistically as a person? Anyone need any more time here? Anyone have any ahas? Anything surprise you when you're looking at each facet of your life? No? You're all 10s. Great.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, I mean, you know, we talked in the last segment about how do you bring in a partner, you know, whether it be a spouse, a parent, a friend, whatever. And my wife and I were talking in the car last week just about various things and not necessarily goal setting, but I said, you know, I think the one thing that we're missing as a couple that I think is like, I feel maybe drawn to it is our spiritual connection, right? And so all of a sudden that led into, I don't know, 30 or 40-minute discussion of, okay, what does that mean to her? What does that mean to me? Now, do I expect Mindy to go out and do a 7 circle on, I don't know, but at least got the conversation going with somebody that I have a partnership with and a relationship with, and that I want to go the same direction with.
And to follow up on that, it's fun to look back and see that a year ago I put relationships with my kids in a focus and said, okay, how am I going to implement that? And then every month make sure I took my one kid to lunch once a month. He's in college, he's busy, that's phenomenal. Mom's taking you what? And the other one, make sure we got weekly time when we're out of state, make sure we talk with these once a week, you know. And my parents and my siblings, and I focused on that. And now I look back and go, man, I'm doing okay in that circle. I got some stuff I can still do, but to see it holding me feel really fulfilled as a mother.
Yeah. And that actually beautifully segues into what I'm going to have you do. So pick the area of your life that you have identified as something you want to work on, that something deserves your attention. And you're going to write down the one thing you can do that such by doing it, that facet of your life will become easier and improve. And like Marita said, it could be very simple, right? Like just the awareness. I'm going to call my kid once a week. I'm going to take my kid to lunch. How are your relationships better for that, right? Because you took the time to focus on it and be aware of it. All right, Mike, you want to lead us into the next section here?
So how many of you right now have either a transaction goal or a financial income goal for 2025? Okay, about half the room. So good work. If you don't, right, utilizing that 7 circle exercise, some of the goal planning that we did this morning in terms of wealth and relationships, business, hopefully you start getting some clarity on where you want to be at the end of 2025. And again, if you're not in real estate, it could be a financial goal, right? But it also could be a transaction goal. But pick something that's specific and measurable, right? Attainable, repeatable, and time sensitive. We call those SMART goals, okay? Because once you have that, we can then start to work through what we use here at Keller Williams. And again, it will work across just about any industry. This is simply a roadmap of, okay, you've got, I'll use $100,000 as an example. Now, if you're a real estate agent, who has never heard that as a goal for a realtor? I want to make $100,000, right? In my recruiting days, it was, you know, that was it. So let's just say you want to have $100,000 of income. Well, now this tool that we'll go through, and we'll do a quick exercise, will allow you to understand the roadmap that you're going to take to get there. Any questions on that? Okay. So if we're using this up on the screen, and the cool thing here is you can work backwards or you can work forwards. But we're going to work backwards here because in this example, and this just came from the MREA, but the goal here was to have $1 million of net income. Okay. Well, when you back out what we use in our models of 30% expenses and 30% cost of sale, right? You need to then gross 2.4 million to get that net. Everybody following? Okay, it's just a math equation. Gary talks about the path is in the math. This is exactly what we're doing with any one of your goals. Okay, so in order to earn that million netting, we've got to gross 2.4 million. And here's where the fun part comes, because then you just start to backdoor your way into the fundamental building block of our business, which is appointments. Okay, so if you work backwards, now, mind you, on the right-hand side, you've got the buyer side. On the left-hand side, you've got the listing side. Okay, I'm just going to use the buyer side as an example. Okay. If they need to gross, if this individual needs to gross 2.4 million, and they're assuming that 50% is going to come from both and equally from both buyers and sellers. Well, we need to gross 1.2 million in gross commission income from the buyer side. Okay. Now, these figures are all going to be unique to each one of us. So what is the average commission aside? So if you've got a $500,000, well, let me back up. Knowing that our average sell price is about $500, $550, you're looking at about $15,000 in commission. Here, the example is $7,500. And you backdoor your way just by doing some arithmetic all the way to, okay, well, average sell price is $250,000. They do 160 sides a year, and it looks like Linda's going to draw this out for us. And then what are your conversion rates? So how many buyers in this case, if they sell 160 buyers sold, in this case, 80% conversion, meaning that they have to then take 200 buyers, sign buyer agreements to close on that 160. Everybody with me on that? Okay. And of those 200 buyer agreements they took, they're converting on 65% of the appointments they go on, which then tells that this individual needs to go on 307 buyer appointments to then close on the 160 based on their conversion rates. This is why it's super important in our business to know your numbers, right? Gary talks in this model that you gotta know the numbers you have to hit. And appointments, scheduling appointments is a little bit of skill, maybe a little bit more skill, but it's as much effort. When you start getting into, well, how many appointments am I going on to sign, and then how many am I signing that I have to take and get to the closing table, that's where the skill set starts to come in. And we'll talk about that on our GPS as we get down further. But this model, both in my prior team as well as what I'm going to be doing on a personal production level, this model becomes important because it takes all the guesswork out of what do I need to go do. And for me to hit my income goal, I need to go on 2 appointments a week. Okay, based on my conversion rates, 2 appointments a week gets me to my net income goal. Now, if I increase my conversion rate of appointments gone on to signed, but I don't want to change my income goal, it means I just get to go on fewer appointments, right? So knowing your conversion rates, knowing your numbers is important to making sure that this model works out in a fashion that allows you to know how you're going to get from point A to point B.
So before we dig into the numbers for everybody, who would like a way to track their conversion rates better?
Bet you got something.
So the QR code on the front of your packet is going to take you to a blank copy of a business tracking sheet that my team has been using for several years, thanks to my genius, nerdy husband over here. Nerdy is hot, just so you guys know. But his Excel skills by far and away outweigh any of my tech skills. And so what he's done is he's created a template where you can track your appointments and your listed or buyers signed to sold and know exactly at a glance on the cover page what your personal conversion rates are if you're filling out your appointments and what happens, like the result of each appointment. So that tracker, all I ask is that you make a copy of it and then fill it out. Otherwise, everybody's gonna be working off the same sheet and real frustrated. He does, so there are instructions there. But this has been a great way for us to track real data, because if you don't know your numbers right now, that's fine. We're gonna give you kind of the market statistics, what we're seeing at large. But your conversion rates might be different, and that's important to know, because you either are going to need to go on more appointments, or you might not have to go on as many as you think. So that's kind of a little value tool for you to take away and use after today. So let's get to the numbers. If you have your big goal, and in this case, on this page, we're looking at a net income goal. So how much money at the end of the year would you like to take home and keep for yourself? And go ahead and put that number at the top.
Are we on the GPS now?
Nope.
Nope,
We're
we're
on
on
this
the
one right here.
economic model. Yep, so in the spot where it says net income, to the left of that, you're just gonna write your number. Everybody got that number? Okay, and then you're gonna take, so that piece is 40%. You're gonna take 30%. Help me out with the math here.
You want 30%. You want to divide your number by 30% so that you understand if you're following the model that we used, that's going to be the expenses. Nope, you divide it by it to get the expense number.
If I take my number and divide it by 30%, I get.
Oh, you're right. So yeah, my bad. So if you want to make $100,000, and you have 30% expenses,
30% is
30,000.
30,000. So you're gonna add, there's a plus sign right there. You're gonna add your 30% to that net income goal. And then that same number, that same 30%, you're gonna add again, because that's your cost of sale. So in this example of $100,000, right? You wanna take $100,000 at home at the end of the year, and you're gonna times that by 30%, so $30,000 you're going to add, and that is your operating expenses. And then you're gonna add another 30%, and that's your cost of sale. So add those three numbers together, and that is your total gross commission income that you need to make in 2025 to go home with that top number. So in the case of making $100,000, you need to make $160,000 in gross commission income in order to take home $100,000 if you're following the model.
You know, one thing that's not on here, and it's not in the book either, is taxes.
Taxes, because taxes should be part of your take home, right? So if you want $100,000 and you want $100,000 period, add another 30% on there.
There you go.
Boyd.
It depends on where you're at, because you're not gonna have, if you're a new agent and you don't have staff and so forth, likely your cost of sale will be less than
Correct. And just for clarity, for definition of those terms as well, cost of sale is going to be things like your cap, what you pay to your brokerage, salaries that you have, cost of sale. No, sorry, not salaries. That's expenses. Referrals and commission, like pieces of your commission that come out when you have a sale.
Think about all of the things that you would have to do to sell a listing, and that's a cost of sale. So your signs, your lock boxes, your photography, any sort of, concession that you might give, and then of course the referrals that are being paid.
Referrals,
Cost of sales.
splits are a
What about
cost
the
of
marketing
sale.
dollars?
Well, the marketing dollars are different. Those are going to be put into the expenses.
Yeah.
And typically, just so you know, anything that's in your expenses in particular should give you an ROI. And so, the cost of sale, there's not really going to be an ROI there. It's just the cost of doing business.
Yep.
But if you start looking at expenses, anything that you're spending in there should actually deliver some sort of ROI. Even salaries, right? So if I'm paying a salary, I should be able to grow my business for, like 4, 5, 10 times more by paying that salary than I could have done on my own, right? So that's an investment.
The easiest differentiator that I've had in kind of figuring out which box your dollars go into is cost of sale is that doesn't happen unless you have a sale.
Right.
Splits, referrals, your cap, all of that. It doesn't happen. You don't pay it unless you have a sale. Your expenses are all of the things that you're doing in your business that you pay even if you don't have a sale. Does that make sense? Justin?
So it's probably easier to say cost of sale are variable, expenses are fixed.
They should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just speeding ahead here with our
Yep,
example.
you're good. So moving on, now you know your gross commission income. Okay, now you're going to divide that by your average commission. If you don't know what your average price point and your average commission dollars are, go ahead and use the example of $15,000. That puts you right about a $500,000 average purchase and sale price. So in this case, the number that you come up with, if you're shooting for $100,000, is 11 closed transactions.
It's actually 10.6, but you always want to round up.
Damn. I mean, unless you're banking on like weird referrals all year, go ahead and round up. Always round up, even if it's 0.1. We're not rounding down. You can't have half a person, and you can't have half of a commission. We're going to assume that you're all going to sell a whole house. Okay, now here's where it gets a little bit more diverse. You have to take a look at your business and decide, are you going to be 50-50 buyers and sellers? Are you going to be 60-40? Are you 70-30? Are you on a team? Do you have a specialty? Do you only do listings? Do you only do buyers? What does your business look like? And you're going to decide how many of this number, the transaction number we just came up with, how many of those are going to be buyers and how many of them are going to be sellers?
Yeah, just one thought too, when you're looking at the income that you're making, that this economic model doesn't really take into account are referrals that you're giving for your clients to agents in other areas that you don't work, because it should be the focus of your business, but we don't really talk about it here.
Yep. It is. That's your it's your cute little bonus. Your bonus plan for the year is send a deal to another agent in another market. But this is your bread and butter right here. Like this is where your money mostly comes from.
So can I, for this example, can I just,
Yeah?
we just break it out 6 and 5 just for easy
Go
purposes?
for it. So in this example, we're going to do 6 listings and 5 buyers. Okay? So let's work the sell side first. So on the sales side, you're going to times that buyer seller's listing sold. That's very weird. So you're going to times that side by the total units sold.
Yep.
So that equals Oh, that's your percentage. Like if you did it on a percentage base, like I want a 50-50 business. Okay,
Yep.
you're gonna have 5.5 on each
we've already
side.
gotten to that
We've already
point.
gotten to that point. We're deciding 6 and 5 in this example.
Yep.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna then divide it by the conversion rate. And if you don't know your conversion rate, the market right now on the buy side, once you have an agreement signed, the chances of them completing the purchase are going to be on the buyer side about 80% once they sign with you.
If I take 80%,
So-
that's going to be 4
Yep.
divided by 80% equals
4 on the
4.
listing side, yep.
Yep.
Or on the buyer side, sorry. And then you're going to divide that number.
Oh, hold on here. I've got it, because now we're working backwards, right? From
Yep.
Close. So
bigger,
now
so
that's
it's gonna
going to
be
be one more, so
6.
6.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, times 80%, which equals 6 signed.
You're right, it was divided by, because that gets you a larger number.
There you go. I got it. So 6 signed, right?
Yep. And then you're going to divide that number again, because when you have an appointment with them, about 65% of the buyers you sit down with are actually going to be in a ready, willing, and able position to perform and sign a contract with you.
Okay, and that's 9.23, so we're going to round up to 10.
Or that even start as a lead probably before you sit down.
Yep.
Yep.
The concept is, hey, one of my
Yeah, when they raise their hand and say, I'm ready, I'd like to, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can, right?
So that gives us 10.
So that gives you 10 total buyer appointments needed to close 5 buyers throughout the year.
Yep, exactly right.
Does that make sense to everybody? Where is anyone stuck?
I got down to the numbers, so I want to do 50, 11 on each side.
Okay.
Then I'm not sure how you were dividing them.
Okay, so let's work through it again.
Want me to erase it and start
Yep.
over?
So let's do 11 for
Okay.
this example.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so you're going to close 11 on one side, right? 11 buyers. So we'll walk through it with you. So if you have 11 there, then you're going to divide it by the conversion rate of 80%, unless you know your own number. This is buyer side.
14.
It's not, the conversion rates are different. So your number then is 14, right? When you take 11 divided by 80%, it's 14. Okay, then you're going to divide it again by another 65%. Right. Correct, because that's these are going to be your leads to appointments. So these are people that have raised their hand and said, yes, I'd like to buy a house with you. And then you sit down with them in the process of discovering financials and motivation and all of that. For whatever reason, they're not ready now. Okay, so that number is 22. So now you know that to close 11 buyers in the year, you need to have 22 appointments. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we work the seller side. So you have your other number. In our case of the $100,000, it was 6.
Yep.
Okay, on that side, you're going to divide that number by 65%.
That's 10.
Okay, so then the first number we have on the list side is 10, and then you're going to divide it again by 80%.
It's 13.
13. So the ratios are different on the seller side because right now what we're looking at is there are people that are saying, yes, I'd like to meet with you, I'm interested in selling. And then about 75% of sales are actually selling. So that's accounting for fallout. 25% fallout. And in this case, the numbers are a little bit higher simply because that you can't account for like either their house doesn't sell, they take it off the market, they decide not to sell, or they can't sell, right? They decide to hold on for whatever reason. Yeah, and if Dave comes in behind you and says, I can sell your house. Okay, so in the $100,000 example, if you were selling 6 listings and servicing 5 buyers throughout the year, you now know that you need 13 listing appointments and 22 buyer appointments throughout the entire year. Is that helpful for you guys? Marita.
Can I just say how powerful this is? If you had a job and you walked into your boss and said, hey, I am super motivated, I totally want to make $100,000 this year, give me the plan, I will do it. They'd be like, I don't make $100,000. Get out. I mean, you know, you just would not get this kind of power to be able to create the future you want in your maintenance.
Right. The other thing that happened for me when I first did this exercise several years ago was I was like in my head, because $100,000 for me was a really hard barrier to break through. It took me a few years before I was like, oh, there it is. But like the power in this is knowing that to net $100,000, you don't have to go sell 50 homes, right? You just have to be really focused on selling the 11 homes and knowing your metrics of how to get those 11 to the closing line.
Yeah, I was just going to add, the thing that stuck out to me here just in this example is you've got 13 seller appointments and 22 buyer appointments. If I'm doing the math, that's 35 total appointments over a 52-week year. Who thinks they could do that? I mean, think about
Morgan.
that. Think about that. Like, I mean, that's less than one a week.
Yeah. Like, okay, so knock all of your appointments out and then go on a baller vacation.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. Get it all done, I'll front load it, and then see how much more you can do the back half of the year.
Well, and if I do the simple math here, if I wanted to net 200,000, I'm averaging just over what, 30, 35, 70, so just over 1 appointment a week.
Yeah. Who here can set 1 appointment a week? I mean, I think you all can.
That's right.
Right? It's the awareness and the focus of knowing your numbers and knowing what those metrics are to hit those goals. Oh, Boyd.
So much magic in the accumulation effect too. But if you're committed to doing 1 appointment every single week, the magic will show up. The deals will happen. They'll be closed. If you go 2 weeks without, you got to get 3. Like you're just never get a momentum. But this plan, like Mike, I believe him, is the best way to fitness routine is with just every day. Like I'm doing something to set up an appointment, and he's only got to get 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, so he's doing the activities that are in his schedule to do the activities, whatever those are, his open houses, his SOI calls, events, to stack up to get those 2 appointments. But if you get loose and go a month without doing it, it's really hard to get back on the course.
Well, and so this appointments is really the barrier here, the barrier to entry, but it actually goes even a layer deeper, which is on contacts. And where this struck me this week is Dave Bachman was over here in the cubicle, and I asked him how his day was going. He's like, yep, I hit my 30 contacts, right? And it was just like he knew in his mind, whatever, that was the number he needed to hit to make sure he's probably on track for his appointments, such that he's on track to get his agreement so that he can hit his financial goal. Am I right? Yeah. So.
I've been blessed to have this ingrained in the past 10 years working with Jeff Whitman.
Yep.
It really helps to have your numbers from the past year when you're doing this for the next year. So you can see where you were this year and how you stack up to what you want to do next year.
Yeah, and if you don't have that number, it's all right. We use a number, right? And then 12 months from now, or even 6 months or whatever, you start to reevaluate based on your conversion rates. You can start to tweak that.
Mm-hmm. Or here's an idea. Plug it all into the business tracker, right? And then pay attention to that number. Redo the exercise at the end of the first quarter and see, like, how are my conversion rates? Are they improving? Are they not as good as I thought? And where are the pieces that I need to improve in my business to bring those numbers up? Anyone else have a question? Who finds this helpful? Yeah?
What does 30 contacts every day get you? How many points? Usually it gets me 3 to 5 leads, and I get working every other day.
Yeah.
You're going on 16 contacts. How many? 2 a week.
Okay, and to give you all some context, if you don't know Dave, a lot of us do know Dave, but if you don't know Dave, Dave is one of our top agents in the office. He comes in here, he makes his 30 contacts, he goes on his appointments, he's sold almost $20 million in real estate this year.
Yeah.
That's the power of knowing your numbers.
But and I love the question Justin asked, because the second he asked it, Dave knew exactly, well, this is what it gets me, right? What it gets him is, 20 million in sold real estate in top 500.
And these are people he does not know.
Yeah, I mean, he's cold calling people. Like the rest of you are probably like, I'm gonna call people that know me, love me, trust me, and they're gonna be nice to me when I call them. Dave's out there pounding the phones, calling other people's listings that didn't sell.
Can I be the Annie for a minute?
Yeah?
Okay, so who feels a little sick, like thinking of the numbers and like putting numbers to people? Like that feels sick. Okay, so Dave, where did you go? There you go. Did you ever have a period where you felt like those numbers like made you feel bad, or you didn't like looking at them, and like what was your, please tell me like, what was your growth pattern through that?
For like a goal?
Yeah.
So last year I was looking at it, so this year, today I'm at 3,860 contacts. And those are all people, like you said, that for the most part don't know.
Well, like thinking back to the early days of your career, like when you feel like making things, you like adapted to this way of thinking. So like for instance, I mean, I'm an example of that. I used to like the first few years, I was like, this makes me sick. I don't want to think of people that way.
The easiest thing to do is to warm up to it. So if your goal 30 contacts, start at 10 today. And then anything outside of work that's irritating you or bothering you, leave it at the door before you get on the office. So that way you can focus on, hey, who can I call today to help? And not have, because people can hear you if you're stressed out or you're not having a good day or you're climbing your numbers, you can't pay or whatever. People hear that, whether you're knocking doors or talking on the phone. So if you can leave that on the outside of the office, it helps your conversations become easier.
Well, I think the key thing that he said there was like, there's a difference. Like if you're stuck on the fact that you feel like this is treating people like numbers, listen to what Dave said. He said he's calling to see how many people he can help, right? The people are not the numbers, right? The people are not the numbers. You're looking for the people you can help because you're in a unique position to help change people's lives. You are dealing with the largest financial decision they will ever make in their lives. You are. And that, if that's not helping people, I don't know what is. But knowing your numbers is part of this, right? Like if you don't know your numbers, how can you be helping people if you're not even helping yourself to understand how much money you'd like to make and how you'd like to help your own family?
Someone like Liz who wants to be more of a do-gooder and not waste people's time, that's her shit that Mike said is, gosh, someone out there needs my help today, I have to make enough calls to find them.
Yeah.
And she gets someone who's rattled up and said, I can't believe you just called me, so you must not be the person I
Yeah.
can't help today.
Thank you, and I know you're not the person today.
You know who's less grumpy than you.
Yeah.
Well, as kind of an outsider, because I'm not really a real estate agent, doesn't happen to my house, but I have been in the past. But I can tell you right now, like when I go in to just do quotes for houses that people are getting ready to sell, there's the first thing I'm gonna do is turn them over to people that I feel comfortable are gonna go in there and help them. And it is truly help. You've got a family who the mom and dad have died, you've got 8 siblings, they're all trying to get this all off their plate so they don't have to worry about it. They need you. When you have someone else, having to get I go in to do a quote for like a move out cleaning or whatever, and his mom just died. And I'm saying that just in some cases, there's all kinds of different things, moving, that kind of stuff. And so, honestly, and having done real estate before, I mean, you guys have a lot to offer that really they can't get. They can say they can try to get it by just going to the for sale by owners or whatever they're doing, but honestly, there's just not the same kind of service they can get. And they can get legit in the contract process, all kinds of stuff that you guys take care of.
knowing your numbers and running a business is different than what you're actually doing in your job. And this is where we talk about business and job, right? Your job is the feel-good part of helping walk people through the largest and most complex financial decision they'll ever make. But your business is 100% to know your numbers. Mark, you were going to say something, and then Marita.
Just that the goal is just a tool. It's just to give you some focus. Don't look at it as like, oh, convert this or philosophize it. All it is just to give you a way to move towards your goals.
Yeah. Marita.
And, you know, Dave didn't start the year going, okay, I'm gonna go talk to 4,000 people. He breaks it down, I'm gonna talk to 30 today. You don't go, oh, I've gotta do 100 appointments, it's overwhelming. No, you might find
Chunks it
you
down.
162. You just
Yeah.
chunk it down.
One a week. I just need one appointment this week. That's it. Nate.
I think one of the powerful things with business planning too, or going into the year with the plan, is then the retrospectability too. So like, I got my P&L for last month, last night, and my husband happened to be in the office when I opened it, and he's like, I'm gonna leave, you're looking at the P&L. And I'm like, well, wait, let's just do the math real quick, because I'm behind on my volume goal this year, but it's cool to be able to say, well, my goal was to be 40% profitable, and even though I'm down, the income is down, those metrics have held true, and it's still a 42% profit. And so that's really cool to be able to say, well, I didn't hit my volume goal, but I stayed in my business plan, and like, I won it. But I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like, if I was at 42 this year and I didn't have a goal, then I'd be like, oh, we're at 42.
Well, and more often than not, what happens is if you don't have an idea of what your expenses and your cost of sale are, and you're not holding yourself accountable to these numbers, you're going to spend it all, and you're going to be in trouble next year when the IRS wants their money. Justin.
I might just say this, because it helps simplify it. I'm not as high functioning as Dave or a lot of you, but I would say this. I'm just trying to make it 5 all day.
There you go.
5. And I believe my conversion rate, if I get in front of somebody out of appointment, I'm a lot higher than 80%. Right? And I believe that I'm just gonna, I get fewer at bat if I'm gonna not do one of those part. But if I just focus on 5, dude, I think those results are pretty incredible.
Well, also remember you're at a point in your career where you had a ton of at-bats. You had a lot of practice already. So you get in front of people, you're gonna nail it. Whereas somebody who's brand new, like they're gonna need more practice before they're gonna just go out and nail it.
Right.
The beauty of it is it doesn't matter. You know what your number is, he knows what his number is, and whatever the number is, you work it. If it only takes you 5, awesome.
But I'm saying, I don't know my number, but I'm just trying to focus on 5.
But you do, because you know the 5 will get you there, right?
I don't know.
Well, I think what we can take away from this, though, is that he has a plan, right? And having a plan is better than not having a plan, right?
I think that if you're looking at this and you see that your percentage is low, and that's like, you're like, hey, I want to be better, have better appointments, be more effective in there, then maybe as a goal, you should like try to gain a skill set. Like look at the skill set you have and try to maybe improve that. That's an easy thing to work on, and you can easily improve your listing presentation, easily learn how to overcome some objections or one objection, and just a couple of those little things will change your conversion right there.
Yeah, I mean, think about, we just, went through the last couple of years where interest rates were so high, right? Did we have to alter what our messaging was when we were at a buyer or a listing consultation? Yeah.
Talk about rates.
Well, yeah, because before that we didn't have to, and then all of a sudden we have to.
2-1 buy downs, seller concessions, looking at different loan products, looking at different strategies, looking at seller financing. I mean, just knowing this basic piece of information gives you a lot of information about where you could be improving your skill set in your presentation or in how you're talking to people when you're trying to find people to help.
How you're setting the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Appointment ratio is low. You could look at that and just focus on that one thing. It could change your whole trajectory of your business.
Yeah. Okay, so At the bottom there, there's a little section for you to kind of write your notes. Where do you plan on improving? Maybe, if there's something that stood out to you that you're like, yeah, I'm really excited about this, maybe write that down again. But now at least you all have a plan, right? And you know what your number is.
Yeah.
Does anyone not have that? Okay, good.
I was just going to say, Boyd and I were talking yesterday. After today, right? And I'll volunteer you, myself, any of the partners, Boyd. Like, if you guys are looking for a consultation on how to build this out, because maybe you're stuck on a number, or maybe you don't know how to get past it, like, look us up. Like, we'll spend the time with you to help you walk through that process, because knowing your numbers is such a great start to the year.
Yeah.
One other thing is, if you haven't looked on the old KW, you have your report section, you can go in there and you can find out
Your numbers.
exactly how many units you sold from each side. You can find out your averages just by, that report's generated every month for you. You just have to go look at it, but that's an easy way to just see where you're at. No guessing, black and white.
Yeah, and if you can't find that, or if you're new to KW, or if you're not with us and you want to know, we have a tool to look that up too, no matter where you're at. So if you want to know, just come talk to me. I'll tell you. Okay, any other questions before we move on? Marita. I mean, he's sitting right here. It is a very, very robust tool. You can use it as simply or as complexly as you'd like. I think the main areas to focus on that have been really helpful for our team is filling out the appointments. So when you go on an appointment, putting in, did you go on the appointment? And what was the result of the appointment, so that we could know our conversion rates was great. And then plugging in the goals on the first page, on that cover page of the tracker, it has a metric that will track automatically where you are in regards to that month and what your goal is, to see if you hit it. It's way easier to course correct on something like that on a weekly or a monthly basis, rather than setting this big goal like, I'm going to go talk to 45 people or 35 people this year, and they're all going to buy or sell from me, and I'm going to close 11 deals. And you get to July and you're like, well, I've talked to 6, right? So make sure that you're revisiting this and tracking it often, so that if you see a problem, or if you see a dip in your conversion rates, or if you see a change in your numbers, you have an opportunity to correct it before it's too late. That's the important part of using the tracker. But yeah, if you have questions, you can ask me. I'll maybe put you in touch with Kelly. John. The right side is 10, not 22. You've taken your... Correct. The right side is 10 in the $100,000 example. We just moved this to an example where you closed 11. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So what do we do with the number, right? Like, now you know.
Yeah. So this page is simply just taking what we just did on the whiteboard and working backwards when you know your conversion rates. We've already done that up here. This is just in a different format, so you can see how you can work forwards or backwards.
Okay, so now that you know your number, what do you do with it? Let's talk about the pillars of business. And Mike, would you mind writing these down as they shout them out?
Yep.
Where do you guys get your business from?
That's why.
Okay. 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 Great. Other realtors. Okay. Attorneys. Okay. Where else? Farming. Sorry? What is that? Okay, third-party sources. Where else? Social media. Where else? There we go. Where else? Where are you guys getting business? Already said. Good work. Okay, your preferred partner network.
Well, I'm just going to put
Yep,
Allied up here.
Allied Resources. Lenders. Okay. I haven't found a lender that's given me
I was
business
gonna
in
say,
a long
who's got
time.
it? Who's the lender? I
Congrats,
need to
you
get
are
with
working
you.
with a great lender. Okay, business, so business off of business.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put from
Oh.
existing listings.
Yeah. Where else? Open houses. Someone already said it, but he can only write so fast.
What was it?
Where else? Open houses.
Oh, gotcha. I'm slow.
Anyone else have one that's a little more obscure that maybe they've found a niche?
Networking with agents.
Networking, okay, could be with agents, could be a hobby. Most of, like probably a quarter of my business every year comes from me playing co-ed adult kickball. Kind of weird, but great networking opportunity. Yeah, hobbies is good, PTA.
Your gym.
Yeah, your gym. Yeah, not some of y'all's gym. Apparently, all the realtors go to the same gym. Okay, for those of you that are new, this is a very long list of opportunities. I would encourage you to pick 4 and really focus on them. You might only need 1 or 2, depending on what your goals are. But diversify a little bit, right? And we'll keep this list up here because we're going to talk about next how to put the plan in place. Okay? So what we're talking about is a GPS, or some of us older, more experienced folks might call it a 135. But this is your goals, your plans, and your strategies to achieve what you'd like in this coming year. So an example that we have on the board here is the GPS that I wrote for the Market Center last year. So you want the goal to be a SMART goal. Mike, remind us again what a SMART goal is.
Yep, specific stands for specific, measurable, attainable. Sometimes people use actionable, repeatable, and then the last one, the T, is time sensitive. So you have like a deadline, a timeline to get it done.
So you're looking for a specific action that can be measured and has a time limit. Okay, so the example here is in 2024, gross 12 agents a month and net 50 agents for the year. Okay?
Repeatable.
Repeatable.
Yeah, specific. I'll write it up here. So
Specific.
specific.
Measurable. Attainable or actionable. Something that's, I mean, you're not going to you're not going to live on Mars. Make sure that you're living in reality currently. Repeatable and time sensitive. And I learned these a little bit different. One was actionable,
Well,
realistic,
yep.
and time sensitive.
Yep.
Okay, and now what you're going to do, so if your goal is make $100,000, that's always the great golden example. That's your big goal, and that's going to go at the top of the page. Okay, and then you're going to come up with 3 priorities. And more recently, I'm listening to Jay Papasan and everybody that talks about The One Thing. And The One Thing is a great book. If you haven't read it, it talks about the idea that what is the one thing you can do that makes all other things easy or unnecessary? Sure, that you can control. So when we talk about a GPS, that first priority, that should be the most heavily weighted priority, and it should get you most of the way there. Right? So what is the one thing in your business that you know that if you do it on a repeatable and consistent basis, is going to get you the result that you need with your goal at the top of the page.
What is it, Dave?
Lead gen. Waking up.
Lead gen.
Dave's going the atomic routes, or the atomic habits route. He's like, well, the first thing I have to do is wake up. How do we get to the gym in the morning, Liz? We go to bed early. So here's another example. Mike, you want to go over your GPS?
Yeah, we put this up here because we went through our 7-circle exercise, right? And I think, fitness for me is one of them, has been. And yet I think sometimes when we think of GPS, we just get narrowed in on the business side of things. And so a few years ago, as I was active in my running, one of my goals was to run below 3 hours in the marathon. And so you can see that was my big goal. That was the thing I wanted to get done in my running.
So go over your goal because we want to make sure it's a smart goal.
My goal was to run below or sub 3 hours in the Chicago Marathon.
Okay, so is that specific? Is it actionable? Is it measurable? Is it repeatable? Is it realistic? And is it time sensitive?
Okay. So then I came up with my 3 priorities. Obviously, running is one of them. And it's the first priority because it is the one thing that if I would have done the second priority of strength and the third priority of diet, but I wouldn't have done running, I don't even know if I would have finished it.
So you guys see how that works? Like priority number 1 is like, I got to do that, right? Like I could diet and I could like make sure that I'm strong all year long, but I'm not going to go run 26.2 miles without running.
So I got my 3 priorities set, and then underneath each priority, I came up with what are the specific strategies that I need to execute, right? And there was a lot more than 4 of them in each one because as time went on, I just crossed them off because I got them done. But the first thing I did with the running, the very first priority was create a 16-week training plan. Right? I needed to sort of know what the roadmap was for me to build up mileage to a certain point to make sure that I was on track. And one of my tasks, one of my strategies was run 6 days a week. So take a day off to rest, right? The third was do speed work on the track and hill workouts, up hills to build strength and the cardio, all that fun stuff. But doing each one of these sort of built on the others. I couldn't do hill repeats or speed workout on a track if I wasn't running consistently and following a plan. Maybe you could, but you'd probably get hurt, right? And it wouldn't be any fun, okay? And then I layer on top of that strength. And underneath strength, I went to the gym a couple of times a week and focused on, whether it be, arms or shoulders or legs or whatever, right? But I also added in plyometrics. And then I added in core work and then stretching. And then finally, my diet. So again, this was the last priority, right? But I went on a high protein diet. I limited alcohol to 1 day a week. And that was always the day before my day off, just a heads up. Some of you guys got that. No, I don't. But then the third one was drink a gallon of water, right? Because Saturdays, if you go back up to my running program, 6 days a week, Saturdays were always my long run. And so in order to get through that, through an entire week and then do a long run on a Saturday, you have to be hydrated, right? So you add all these up over 16 weeks. And by the way, it goes fast, just like our business weeks go fast, whether you're doing it by quarterly or whether you're adding up for a year, it goes by incredibly fast.
Now, how many of you feel like 2024, gone, right? And it doesn't get slower. So having the plan in place is going to keep you on track a lot better so that when you look up next year and it's already June, you actually know what you did.
Yeah, so I think this will tie into your business too, okay? Because I think sometimes we look at our goal, whatever that goal is. So in this case, wanting to run below 3 hours. And it's either you hit it or you don't hit it, and it's either success or failure. Okay? Truth be told, I didn't run 3 hours. Okay, I ran 3:05. But, I know, right? But that was 6 minutes faster than I had run prior. And so in my mind, like I got done, I was like, yeah, that was really awesome. And I think if we can approach that in whether it's our business, whether it's our relationships, success and failure is about how we internalize it. But I'll tell you this, if I wouldn't have developed this plan with what I thought was a pretty lofty goal, there's a good chance I wouldn't have improved. Or maybe I would have digressed a little bit. So. No, I wanted to run all the major marathons, and Chicago's one of the 6.
Justin.
Why is it easier to create a goal to do this than it is in business?
Well, let's go back.
Well, I guess the question is, what's the emotional attachment to the goal?
Right. I mean, I'll be honest here. There's been a time in my career where more wasn't always better, right? Like, sell 78 homes a year, and the next year you've got a coach that's like, do 10% more. I'm like, I want to kill you if you tell me I have to do 10% more. So finding something that really resonates with you, like, why do you want to make that much money? Why do you want to close that many deals, right? And if the answer in your heart is, I don't, find something else, right? That's why. It's motivation, right? And it's the idea of wanting something. If you're just wanting to do something because you feel like it sounds good, the odds of you getting there are probably a lot less, right? This is a very personal thing. And if you really want to improve your business, and if you want to do more business, putting a strategic plan in place like this is going to help you. But if you're not attached to the outcome of what you want to do, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get engaged with a plan.
Yeah, I think when we all hear it in the recruiting side in real estate, the magic number is 100,000, right? And the question I always ask is, okay, so why is 100,000 important for you?
Yeah. What would you do with it?
If they can't connect those, right? It's really hard to own the plan and go do the plan, especially when it gets challenging.
Yeah. We talk about financial thermostat a lot. Does everyone know what that is, or do we need to go into a little bit deeper explanation? Okay, so financial thermostat is going to be like, if I ask you, how much money do you need to live? Like, Liz, how much money do you need to live? Want to see you? Nate, how much money do you need to live?
Business or personal?
How much money do you need to live?
I guess 13,100.
Okay, so if you make 10, are you going to be okay?
No.
Okay, so 13,100, that's your number. So that's his baseline. That's the bottom of his financial thermostat. Now, Nate, how much money do you want to make?
35,000.
Okay. What are you going to do with that money? Why 35?
Because my husband retired in 10 years, and we need to have assets in place so that we have the freedom to almost have like our second life at that point.
Okay. Have you made $35,000 in a month?
Yeah.
It's because he's connected to it. It's because it means something to him. Now, if he had told me $35,000 a month and had no idea why, or like even if you had said something like, oh, well, just $15,000 a month, right? Like even a smaller bit more. If he doesn't know what he's going to do with that money and why he's connected to it, your brain is automatically going to default back to how much money do I need to survive? This is why the $100,000 barrier, if you haven't broken it before, seems so impossible. It's because you're not connected to it. It's just this idea that everyone talks about, make $100,000, make $100,000, make $100,000. But if you don't know why, or if you don't know what you're going to do with that money, your brain is automatically going to default to making the amount of money you need to survive. Does that make sense? That's your financial thermostat. So the more you're connected to the things we were talking about this morning, the reason why you're doing what you're doing, the goals that you want to achieve, the things that you want to do in your life, the people that you want to help, the more you're connected and tapped into that and can translate that into numbers and how that makes your business run, the more successful you're going to be executing the plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think if I wouldn't even worry about starting a GPS until I got connected to why my goal is important, right?
Yeah. Otherwise you're just doing this because we told you to. Like, you're not going to go do this because we told you to.
And what do they say? Authorship is ownership?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So if you are struggling with putting the plan together, really come back to why. Why is it important? What do I really want to do? What am I really connected to? And maybe your GPS isn't even around how much money you're going to make. Maybe it's around like what impact you're going to make on another person or your family or whatever. And then what are the things you have to do to make that impact? And maybe your business comes into play as priority number one instead of the big goal. Maybe. So in this case, the number one priority for the Market Center was to recruit new agents. And then the strategies behind it, they were specific. They identified who and how and when. And you can do the same thing in your business. Like for my team, the number one priority that we have is the people that we already know, like, and trust us. And what do we do with those people? Well, we call them quarterly. We have events. We have gifts and giveaways and things that we do. And we're in touch with them and networking with them every opportunity that we have. That's our entire first strategy. And then we have two others that complement that. One of them is farming, and the other one we're still trying to kind of define right now. I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to sit and start working on your GPS. And Mike and I are going to be up walking around. If you have questions or you get stuck, just raise your hand and we'll come and chat with you.
I would imagine too that on like your GPS, yeah, you haven't figured out priority number 3, but that's okay because at least you know number 1.
It's usually like training or like, yeah.
Yeah. And did you see we got lunch? We got lunch. Hell yeah. He's good. What happened there, dude? That's the problem, we're eating vegetables. It was yeah. Yeah, your exercise. Well, and I took a blank one because Mindy and I, like, she doesn't know this yet, so Vaughn told her, but like we'll do like our own little breakaway on a weekend, probably in the next 3 weeks where I don't have the kids, to get alignment on all of that. Yeah. 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 No, that's exactly right.
We have these plans, we're going to try to laying on the couch.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I did tell her about that. I'm like, I'm going up to Brigham City Saturday. You get that email I sent you? Just have the one property. I think Dave came in. He's like, he's saying the same thing you. So I think so. Just get with Russ, and if we have to, it should all come back. So. Yeah, and I think they just probably don't know. I think Russ gates a lot. I said, Dave, go ahead and talk this broker to broker. That's what Russ is now. You good?
Idea to make it more specific, so I'm doing prospecting.
Okay.
Priority. Kind of doing news sources, so cold calling is my main thing.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about how to implement maybe some SOI and social media.
Okay. So on your prospecting, is cold calling right now like the number one thing you do?
Yes.
Okay. Does it occupy a majority of your time?
Yes.
Okay. So do you need to expand it to others because you need additional business, right? And if that's the case, then cool, we can talk about other strategies. Or is it a matter of
Does anybody still need this?
strengthening skill sets?
John has asked me to write an agent GPS example up here, so I'm going to write down my teams from 2024 for you guys to see.
Okay, so if you're prospecting, and then you've got sort of sources. So your goal is that. Right. Okay. So what I would say is your goal up here, you're saying, and I wouldn't say 10 to 15. 10 to 15, we give ourselves room. Pick one, 10, or 12, or 15, pick a number. Your awesome score to get between A and B. That leaves open for interpretation. You do that. Is it another number? Be clear with that. It comes up here. 15 or 10 or whatever contacts a day, and then you start your strategies. Okay, maybe it's what's the top strategy? Is it SOI or is it expires? Is it FISBO? What is it? Does that make sense?
That starts to make sense. I think I'm thinking of this as a category as opposed to
And,
priority.
well, it is. But again, you want to tie it to numbers the more specific you are. So prospecting is a broad category. It should be in your case, but just be definite of what is that number a day? Because what was his number? Start there. Okay. What do you want to do then? Okay. Well, this will work if you're busy still.
Okay, so here's just the first priority. So the goal for my team this last year was to close 30 pieces of business and refer out 20 other transactions. So just the first priority was earn 20 listings by October 1st. And the strategies were implement and execute a 37 touch system, collect referrals and attendance at events and follow up with calls and thank you notes. Use the DTD2 method for calls to the SOI. Use tiered gifting and rewards for listing referrals. So that was the first referral, they got one thing. The second referral, they got a bigger thing. The third referral, they got a bigger thing, right? So it was teaching people and rewarding people for the behavior of sending me business. And then identifying a farming area and strategically communicating with that geo farm throughout the year. That was just priority number 1. Priority number 2 was close 10 buyers by Halloween 2024. And the strategies on that were service only VIP clients and family, refer everything else, or have a showing assistant show and close. Deliver neighborhood pop-by gifts quarterly and collaborate with referral agents outside of Utah. And the third one was close 20 referred out transactions to other agents. So advertise listings through the Roost with tags for ownership and referral. Assign call leads to agents I trust in the office. Refer SOI referrals I don't know personally to another agent in the office. And build an out-of-state referral network for clients moving out of state. Does that make a little more sense to put it into an agent perspective? You're welcome. Nate.
You may already said this, I stepped out for a minute, but I think words are super important.
Words are important.
I like how you put earn 20 listings versus, sell or get, or like how are you, or what activities are you doing daily to earn the right to have those listings?
Yep.
Yeah, I just to piggyback on that, because I think you're 100% right. When you go to make whether it's your priority or your strategies, as I was walking around the room, an example was prospect 10 to 15 a day. Pick a number.
Yeah. Is it 10? Is it 15?
Whatever.
Is it 13?
Because the words we use, we start to negotiate with ourselves. It's human nature. And if I tell my son, hey, you're awesome at school, whether you get an A or a D.
He's gonna go get D's.
He probably will. He did. Never mind. I didn't say that out loud. But if you start to define that for yourself, you get really clear, right? And clarity's power.
The language that we use, especially the language that we use in our own minds, is very important. One of the things that Kelly and I have been doing with our kids for a long time, that even my son the other night was like, oh, you always ask that question and it's so hard to answer. We ask them at the end of the day when we're sitting down for dinner, what did you do today that you're proud of? It's a better question than how was your day? What do I get when I say, how was your day? Yeah, it was okay. What'd you do today? I don't know. But what did you do today that you're proud of?
Well, and I'm even starting to do that with my kid now, and I try to remember he's still 3, because sometimes, because I have 3 questions I ask him when he gets in my car, and I realize right when he gets done at school is not the best time. I need to give him some.
You gotta give him a minute.
And what's cool is sometimes he really doesn't know, he doesn't remember what happened.
Yeah, they don't.
Sometimes he really doesn't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's like, oh, my teacher made me smile, or oh, Ruby said I was her best friend.
The number one answer we get was, I helped someone up when they got pushed down. And Kelly's question is always, did you push them?
It's fair.
Well, and also we tell them things
The answer is usually no. But if you teach them, right, if you're asking them specific questions, they start to look for it. Right? And what a cool way to cultivate a positive mindset if you're raising children, or if you now are taking the opportunity to raise yourself and train your own brain to look for the good things, to remind yourself about what you're proud of, to look for the positives, and to be focused on the goals that you set for yourself.
I just want to add, Eden kind of got me into that line, asking that probably 2 years ago, and use it on clients who read their appointments.
Always.
It's a huge pattern disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
They are they're at a loss of words.
Yeah.
Because it is a different question, but then the points of connection you get by that answer is cool.
Ah.
Even if it be effectively mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell me something today that you did that you're proud of. The other one that I like to ask is, tell me 5 things that you're grateful for. Maybe anything, like hot coffee in the morning, soft slippers that I put on when I get home, like anything. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, when you advertise on Instagram, sorry, you didn't say it.
No, you're totally fine.
Which social media platforms?
All of them. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, sometimes Indeed, sometimes LinkedIn. All of them. Mm-hmm. Justin, did you have something? No?
So you're including not just like commenting or liking.
There is a system behind that. It's called the 555, right? So 5 posts a week, 80% of those are going to be personal, 20% of them are going to be business. 5 likes on someone's, different people's pages, and then 5 engagements, 5 DMs. Oh, Nate's going to teach us social media secrets here. He runs a pretty baller social media. It's funny, we get people that call in and they're like, oh, you know Nate Sassy? He's like Insta famous. Like, he's just really good at putting together really awesome videos. You're going to show us your market report right now?
I'm going to give you the 5 for 2025 for social media.
Okay. And have fun with it. Like most of the videos that you get engagement on are like silly. They're like parody stuff. They're like not real, you know? So have fun. Like whatever speaks to you in that regard, like whatever you want your social media personality to be, make sure you stay consistent.
I found that just even posting pictures of your buyers or sellers on
Yeah. Yeah. Because social media is the highlight reel of everyone's life. And when you're showing those happy moments, people like it. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, while Nate's finishing writing that, we're going to go to the last piece. You guys can continue working on and refining your GPS. I think the most important part is like have one, right? Have one that you're bought into. And then once you have it, you can break that down even further into a monthly and weekly accountability sheet with the next sheet in your packet. That's called the 411. So you reiterate your yearly goal and then break it down to what that would mean per month and then break it down to what it would mean every week. So in the case of the economic model where we knew we had to sell 1 home a month, you can break that down really easily into, what did we decide, 1 appointment a week?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you look at this 411, your annual just comes right from your GPS, as Linda said. Your monthly is probably just a breakdown of that goal, and those are the whats. But your weeklies are the hows.
Yeah.
How are you going to get it done?
So if you want to flip to the very last page, this will actually work beautifully with Nate's social media plan here. The last page is your 36 touch. So who can tell me why this is important? Why, Dave? There's truth to that. Why 36? Because the average person forgets what you do every 17 days. So if you are not reminding people that you sell real estate in some capacity about every 2 weeks, they forget about you. So the 36 touch gets you in front of people, oddly enough, about every 2 weeks. So what we've done is I have gone ahead and filled out for you some of the events that we already have here in the brokerage that you can take advantage of, and went ahead and put in your DTD2 calling, which is a way to avoid call reluctance and call bias by equally spreading out every single letter of the alphabet, because there's 26 letters of the alphabet, and if you call 2 of them a week, you can get through all of them in a quarter. Makes sense? So that's already in there for you. So you can go ahead and strategically choose what other point of contact you are going to send to your SOI on a monthly basis. Examples of that might be social media, might be a small event that you do, could be a newsletter every month, could be a postcard reminding them about property taxes, or pairing up with a partner and offering a discount on HVAC tunes, or a landscaper to do sprinkler setup and blowout. I mean, the possibilities are endless. But again, the point is to have a plan. So I would encourage you to not only finish your GPS, but to also strategically put in place what do those touch points for your database look like throughout the year? And then execute it. What are your biggest takeaways today, you guys?
Yeah, if you do the work, you're most likely going to receive the result.
There you go. If you have a plan and you do the work, you probably get your results. Okay, what else? Bobby.
For me, in my experience so far, like my biggest roadblocks to being successful are emotional. Like when I don't have business or I'm quiet, I don't have these tangible things to focus on, and then I never win emotionally.
Yeah.
And so this helps me, if I just come up with a plan and I think about the system and helping people, and just stay tied to that rather than the emotion of the industry, like closing transactions or not, like I'll still be successful.
Yeah. If you're showing up at work and doing the activities that you know that are going to get you success will show up and you're not going to panic when you don't. Like that's where we get, right? Like we get super busy and then we're like, oh, I'm so busy. And then you're not lead generating. And then the next month you're like, I'm not going to pay my bills. This is a way to overcome that with a system and a plan. Good takeaway. What else?
Makes it a lot less intimidating by breaking it down to smaller daily, weekly activities.
Bite-sized chunks, right? You can hit this big, beautiful, hairy, audacious goal as long as you know the small pieces you have to do every single day. Anyone else?
My big one is just tracking. I was really good at tracking a lot of things when I was newer, and then as I started getting more successful, I just kind of was like, I kind of know what I have to do. Now the market shifted in a way where when we were going through some of that stuff, I was like, I don't really know my conversion, and I've gotten lazy on getting agreements signed, and so I'm excited to get back into tracking.
Models and systems remove chaos from your life. Nate.
The takeaway I had actually last year on the 36 touch plan was I'm a really good procrastinator. And so if I know that every year in December, the office is doing something with Santa event, then the last week of October, in my 36 touch, that is in there as like, hey, you need to start getting information. Save the dates need to go out in 2 weeks so that it reminds me that, hey, you have an event coming up. Because previously I was always the guy that was like, oh, we have Santa in 2 weeks and I don't know anything.
No, I haven't called the 700 people in my database and I have 2 weeks to do that. Like, whew, thank goodness. But yeah, breaking it down so that you don't have that panic, right? Like the one thing that I feel like a lot of us in this industry share in common is that we're all like squirrels, right? Like we're always chasing shiny things and the next new awesome whatever. Like have a plan and stick to it. How much easier, how much less chaos would you have in your life if you just knew what the plan was? Okay, well, we have a sponsor and we do have lunch, so I'm gonna bring J-Dog Junk Removal in here. Come chat with us. Yeah, Cody's gonna come tell us how he saved my tail like 5 times this year with yucky hoarder house cleanouts.
Do we happen to have the slides?
We do. Maybe. Maybe we don't. Haha, we do. We're gonna talk later.
All right, folks, I won't take too much of your time. I am Cody Bishop, the owner of J-Dog Junk Removal and Hauling here in Salt Lake. J-Dog is the nation's largest veteran-owned franchise network. So it's me here in Salt Lake, the closest one's in St. George. But along the Wasatch Front, we can help you out. And who we are, so that's the team at corporate in Berwyn, Pennsylvania. Comes under local roots. Every location's owned by veterans or their family members. And I always get asked, 'cause my name's Cody, and like, how the heck did you get J-Dog? It was started by a guy named Jerry. He was a wire dog in the Army, so that became his nickname, which then when he started his company, he took it from there. Over 300 locations and growing. We have 2 goals at J-Dog. The first is pretty steep, but we're trying to do our part to lower the veteran unemployment at a federal level to under 1%. And then at least 60% of the items we pick up do not make it to a landfill. So they get donated, recycled, repurposed in some way. That's the man, the myth, the legend, well, Jerry Flanagan. So that's me in Pennsylvania, going through my initial kind of start-off course. There is a J-Dog TV show. If you're like up super late at night, nothing else to watch, you can find it on Tubi, if anyone has Tubi. But yeah, it's called Operation Hidden Treasures. My buddy Joe, who is a franchise owner in Pennsylvania, he did a TV show kind of outlining how we help customers and get creative to repurpose sometimes.
That's funny, I didn't know that.
So this is me. I joined the Air Force to travel and deploy. They sent me 8 hours north of Montana, a job I could never deploy from. But I was a military police officer, never rode in a patrol car, never written a ticket. I did over 200 nuclear convoys transporting across Montana. Got my bachelor's from Utah State when I returned back to Utah, and this is my lovely, crazy family. I've been married 12 years now, have 4 daughters. 5th child on the way. We'll find out next week.
Congrats.
Maybe a boy. We'll see, maybe. But yeah, we love being outdoors, camping, hunting, fishing, snowmobiling. Excited for that this year. And then we like to travel when we can, either the kind of southwest part of Florida, and I'm from Arkansas originally, so we go back there to hunt. Try to every year. All right, this is just some of me and my family. So like I said, I have 4 daughters, Amelia, Caroline, Winslet, and Iris.
So cute.
Yeah. I'm blessed. All right, so what we do, I should have updated this. You can't see it anyway, so you don't know. But we're over 100 5-star reviews now, so pretty proud of that. We do residential and commercial. A lot of what we do is for commercial accounts, either for real estate agents or property managers. Focus on donations and recycling as much as we can, and we do offer demolition work for things like sheds, decks, and fences, detailed demolitions for bathrooms or kitchens, things like that we can help with also. We try to exemplify military bearing and professionalism in all that we do, and we try and support the veteran community here either through donations. The more we grow our business, it's an opportunity to hire and support other veterans and their families. Oh, and you can't see my joke at the bottom. So we always get asked, what items do you take? It's okay. You're all right. Nuclear waste is there crossed out. So literally, we can help with pretty much anything. I already snore like a beast. If I glowed in the dark, my wife would be pissed. So no nuclear waste. Other than that, we can help you out. The tricky things like the hot tubs, the pianos, the paint, the tires, the things that are kind of difficult to get rid of, we can help with that also. The average American produces over 1,800 pounds of garbage a year. The vast majority of it ends up in landfills or incinerators. Kind of crazy here that only 30% of paper is recycled and less than 5% of plastic. So we're just trying to do our part and help the environment with that.
Now it messed up the whole thing.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
All right, so the big focus on recycling, cardboards, plastic, glass, metals, mattresses, e-waste, so things like printers, computers, things of that nature, chemicals. You'd be surprised, a bottle of Windex can be recycled. Those kind of things can be disposed of safely. And then, of course, green waste, limbs, things like that, turn into mulch. Who we support, so we work a lot with Habitat for Humanity. Actually, if you go on the Habitat for Humanity website here in Salt Lake, you schedule a pickup. Me and my guys are the ones that show up. The Other Side Academy, the Utah Veterans Tiny Home Initiative, which is a newer charity here that's moving forth, a guy named Justin Moody, that's building tiny homes and hoping to scale that to actually full-scale communities. Of course, the DI, Goodwill, and Utah Food Bank. We do a lot of clean-outs for apartments, condos, and single-family homes, a lot of which food's left behind, so if it's still in good shape, we donate it. Here's just some before and afters, kind of showing you what we do from small jobs all the way through large. Things like this, if you have a home that you're listing, just a couple things that are left, we can help with that. Or the big things, like the full apartment cleanouts, homes, garages, and then all the way through the hoarder cleanouts.
I'm so glad we can't smell pictures.
The hot tubs, both these are kind of cool. This one was up Immigration Canyon. We had to cut into pieces and carry down the side of a cliff. Construction debris, we do work for a deck builder here that during the summer he can demo and move on to the next job. Yard waste, the demolition for sheds. We did a 2-acre property in Magna where we demoed a barn. That was pretty cool. And then the last one, that's actually a Bed Bath & Beyond that was converted to a Spirit Halloween. So we had to come in and demo the entire shelving. So small to large, we can help you out. Do free estimates. If you don't have my card, I have some out here. You can send me pictures just on my cell phone. We can try and get you a ballpark that way. Just try and streamline the process. I know when you're going through and you're listing to sell, time is of the essence, so we can definitely help with that.
I'll tell you guys, Cody has helped me both personally and for my business this year, and our clients had nothing but fantastic things to say.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Going back to help Chris Proctor and his wife.
Again?
Next week.
I don't know what they're doing, but that's cool.
It's a storage unit.
Yeah, it's the other storage unit. Yeah.
All right. I got kneaders outside. You guys grab a couple sandwiches and have a good day. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so again, if you guys get stuck or if you want to run anything past anyone, all of the owners, the staff, the leadership in the office, the ALC, find a buddy, share your plan, and if you need help walking through anything, please reach out. Mike, you got anything else? Okay, thank you very much for being here. Go enjoy your lunch.